Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Dana Bash does her best to try to get the best of Jim Jordan, and it goes pretty much as well as you'd expect when Jim Jordan just takes her to school on legal theory. But before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to our great sponsors over at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have the cure to bite inflation and Harris economics, but more on that later. Now, let's dive in.
That's the law. That's the standard. And Jack Smith can do all this 37 different counts and whatever he wants to do, but that doesn't change the standard. The standard that the Supreme Court in a unanimous decision said was that he can classify and he can control access. He has the sole authority.
In this indictment, he states on at least one occasion that he did not declassify the information. When he's showing a document to somebody who doesn't have security clearance, I might add, he says explicitly that it is classified. He didn't declassify it.
Dana, he has said time and time again he's declassified all this material. This is the most political thing I have ever seen. They have been out to get President. They're indicting President Trump on Tuesday for having material that he declassified that was protected by the Secret Service. And the people who are doing it is the administration, the Justice Department, from his opponent in the upcoming presidential election. I mean, this is as political as it gets. And frankly, Dana, it's part of a pattern. We've seen it time and time again with the president over the last 7 years. They try one thing, then they try another. They've continued to go after him. And I think anyone with common sense can see that.
Okay, this is a very detailed indictment. A couple of things that you just said. Number one, the Secret Service, they are charged with protecting the president. They didn't even know, according to the indictment, that those documents were there. So that wasn't their job. Number two, do you have evidence that the president, when he was president, now former president, actually declassified these documents before he took them?
I go on the president's word, and he said he did. And the Supreme Court said that's what counts. So we can have all the things Jack Smith wants to say, but everyone sees this for the political operation it is. The standard is the standard. I didn't set the standard. The Constitution and the Supreme Court did, and they did it in a unanimous fashion, and it was opinion written by Justice Blackmun. So that's the standard. That's the fact. Jack Smith can write whatever he wants, but this is so political. In 2016, I mean, every election we've now seen this, Dana. 2016, it was a dossier that they used. They knew it was false. They used it to go get a warrant to spy on his campaign. 2018, it was the Mueller investigation.
Okay.
2020, they suppressed the Biden
stop you.
laptop story with the 51 former intel officials. 2022.
Let me stop you right there, sir. First of all, I want to go back to just one of the things that you
now
said.
They're indicting him before the 2024 presidential race.
July 21st.
Every single election, they've done something.
He's exactly right. That's exactly what's going on. This is an attempt to indict Trump before an election. By definition, election interference. So what's the real problem here? Well, first off, there's a double standard. And we know it, we see it time and time again. For instance, the Hunter Biden laptop story. We don't care that he was taking a bunch of illicit drugs, okay? What we really care about is the fact that it contained direct links with emails, other bits of information that directly linked Joe Biden receiving money through Hunter, funneling money through Ukrainian businesses like Burisma, and then other nations as in Romania and even the Chinese. The Chinese Communist Party paid Hunter Biden for access to Joe Biden while Joe Biden was the vice president. And you'd think you'd have a media that would care about that, but no, they muddied the waters and then told everyone that, oh, the Republicans are just obsessed with the Hunter Biden and what he does in his illicit activities. No, we don't care about how debauched he used to be. We don't care the fact that he was a drug addict. What we cared about was the direct links to corruption. Hey y'all, I'm not exactly looking at retirement anytime soon, but my parents are, and friends of my parents are, and I'm sure either you or someone you know is looking at retirement and wondering, what do I do? How do I help prepare for this in this economy with this terrible president and with a vice president who basically coup d'etat him and is now looking to run for president herself? How do you protect against this? Well, simple. You go over to my friends at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have something called the Retirement Package Plan. This plan backs your wealth with gold and silver accounts. And furthermore, you will have direct access to these accounts. So you're not at the whims of Wall Street. You're not at the whims of inflation. You are in command of your own destiny. As a bonus, qualified applicants can receive up to $10,000 in free silver, plus a couple of other little goodies that they're going to package up for you, and you're going to be able to protect your wealth and your retirement. So go over to this link in the description below at colonialmetalsgroup.com or call this number 800-203-0422 and see how they can help you prepare for retirement today by backing your account with gold and silver. Don't delay your retirement, folks. Protect the money that you earned with Colonial Metals Group. They're here to help. And the media buried it, and even the FBI told Silicon Valley, y'all can't post this. And that's exactly what happened. So the story got buried. Compare that to the Secret Service then not even knowing that Donald Trump had classified documents that technically weren't classified anymore. So you have a situation where, again, the Secret Service has no idea what they're doing. That's almost a running theme recently. Now, I'm not accusing them of being Praetorian Guard levels bad. They're not exactly begging for money to change emperors, but it's kind of a trend for the Secret Service to start not knowing what all's going on. And that's just the least bit concerning. But you know what? I need to change gears just a little bit. Need to talk a little bit about legal theory. And I get giddy when I get to talk about this because my favorite class when I was studying political science was the U.S. Constitution class. And then, turns out, I'm actually a licensed paralegal in the state of Georgia. Not that I'd be any good at it, but I at least can say that I enjoy legal theory. I love talking about the law, particularly the U.S. Constitution. And Jim Jordan said something that caught my ear, and I had to do a little bit of research. I don't know why he brought up Justice Blackmun. I'll get to him in a little bit. But what he's really talking about is the recent Supreme Court ruling that basically affirmed a former one, I believe the Nixon versus Fitzgerald case, where it was a 5-4 decision saying the president cannot be held liable for any damages when he is quite literally working on his purview as president. Basically, if he's been given a job by the Constitution and it's within his bounds, he's not liable for the damages. You can't bring him to court. And so what they're really saying is, as long as the president is working inside of his means, he can't really get sued by anybody. He can't go to court. And so the Supreme Court ruled in favor of that for a second time when another lawsuit was brought up against President Trump. And so, based on legal precedent, yes, you have to argue in that vein. It's weird, though, that he brought up Blackmun, because in that Nixon versus Fitzgerald case, and I could be talking about the wrong case, but it has all the similar characteristics, so that's why I'm bringing it up. He talks about Justice Blackmun, and Justice Blackmun is from Minnesota. He started off as a fairly conservative justice, arguing only from what the Constitution says, and then in the late 60s, early 70s, he started to drift, and instead of arguing from the Constitution, he started arguing from, well, emotion. It didn't matter that the Constitution is something that's to be sacred. That is our binding document. If you go outside of these bounds, you need the Supreme Court to say, hey, you can't do this. We're nipping this in the bud. Here's the ruling. You can't do X because you were overstepping your bounds. Instead, he took on the idea that a lot of liberal justices have taken, that you can interpret laws and then add on things that aren't constitutional, which I think is terrible because that's the whole job of our Congress. It is Congress's job to set policy. It is Congress's job to pass laws. It is the Supreme Court's job to make sure that no one is breaking any rules, that everyone is playing the game correctly, and that they're not legislating from the bench. Justice Blackmun started doing that, and that sort of ideology is infuriating to me. Because if you are a Supreme Court justice, you have one job, and that is to interpret the Constitution, not add on your own legislative agendas, not try to game the system for yourself. It is an attempt to override one of the main branches of branches of government, and that is what Justice Blackmun tried to do. So I don't know why Jim Jordan brought this up. Ultimately, this is CNN trying to trying to catch Jim Jordan between a rock and a hard place, good luck with that. And if you're going to do that, you're going to want someone a little bit brighter and smarter than Dana Bash, because she did a horrible job trying to compare the two, and Jim Jordan just ran rings around her. This was an easy segment to cover, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about because I get to talk about legal theory and the U.S. Constitution. But ultimately, Donald Trump, like any other president, has certain immunities because he was allowed to do things in his own purview. If he is allowed by the Constitution to do X, you can't bring charges against him because he did the thing that the Constitution allows him to do. It is really just that simple. That's why I don't believe the Jack Smith prosecution is really going to go anywhere. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.